Good morning, gentlemen.
Well,
We was going to struggle to do some stuff today. I had some work, but I got rained off here in not so sunny Spain. Rushed home, hence you see, I haven't been in makeup or had anything done. Had me wrinkles crust. I've come in a little bit wet. How are you, Robbie?
yeah, I'm good, mate. Thank you. It's nice here today, and it's not raining, so I'm happy.
Did you have the winner of the national yesterday?
No, I don't know what I did. A random one on that. Sent it to me dad, but I don't. I think it's still running. So,
Yeah. Charlie?
Yeah, good weekend. A little bit of sunshine here, a little bit of grey clouds as well.
My wife wanted that. Don't panic, my son. Was it? Panic attack. And she bet, I've got my app. Like she just get on. I want £10 win, £10. It's all right. Her going, I want a £10 win. It's not her money, is it? That went on it. She went, well, if it wins, I'll give it back. What happens if it loses? I've lost 10 quid. I didn't want the odds. A good race that I Maximus. Just briefly with the boxing, Robbie. I know you're a boxing fan like I am. I mean, do you think like Fury beat this Russian guy last night over 12 rounds, unanimous decision, and they're talking about a Fury Joshua fight? For me, it's 5 years too late. The hype around Conor Benn when he's fought a guy that is purely at the end of his career. Good luck to him. I can't think of his name, Prostages or something. And he went a distance, and probably the guy earned a lot of money, but I don't get it. He's fought Eubank twice, at a weight where Eubank was grossly dehydrated. And all the hype around Conor Benn is beyond me, and why he earns so much money, unless someone can tell me what I've missed.
I watched that last night. I think Ben made hard work of it against an aging fighter, but this is also this Polgaris, if I pronounce it right. He's got a lot of experience. He was a title holder twice, and so this is the difference for me with Conor Benn was the level of the fighter that he was going against. So I know he made hard work of it. He did get a cut from the guy's head, but it was quite wild. But he's probably there because he's quite exciting. He goes in, hell for leather with it. But
I've told you a million times, mate. I mean, I looked the other night and Eddie Hall, like he's 50 kilos heavier than Tommy Fury. And he's like, mate, it's gone for me. I love the schoolboys. I love the ABAs. If idiots want to watch these YouTubers earning loads of money, get on with it. Right, let's get on with the football. Before we move on to a shock result, I think, with Arsenal Bournemouth. Charlie, congratulations to Lincoln. First time in the second tier of English football in over 65 years. What an achievement and what a great thing for the fans, Charlie.
Yeah, it's great for them. Like you say, 65 years since they was last in the second tier of English football. I think you could have got odds of about 40-1 for them to win the league outright at the beginning of the season. I think they was better odds to get relegated, I think, than they was actually to win the thing. So fair play to them. They've been amazing. They've not lost a league game since November when they lost to Wickham. And since then, in the league, they have just been imperious almost. Very rarely dropped points. Won the big games when they had to. So, yeah, can't fault them. Well done to them.
Yeah, it's great. It's great news when you get new teams coming up, Robbie, and changes in the leagues.
I think it's fantastic, and I think it's great for their fans. I don't know them, don't know much about the club, but I wish them good luck because I think it's real football. These guys have been watching them in lower leagues forever, 50 years, if you say. So some of these guys, they deserve the days out. I hope they enjoy it. Good luck to them.
Yeah, I agree. I think the results went the right way. They only got a point, Coventry, but I think with a goal difference. And Millwall, mate, really, the last couple of weeks, they've slipped up. They was playing really well, Millwall, and they've suddenly, I always say who was it said the league starts in April? I can't think who it was. It might have been Ferguson. And they slipped up, Southampton have started flying. But, I mean, other than someone getting like 50 goals, really, you got to say this. Congratulations to Coventry as well, Robbie, because it looks like they're coming back.
And again, good luck. They're going to find it hard next season. That's obvious. But good luck to them. They've scored a hell of a lot of goals. So it could be good to watch. I just hope they don't change their way of playing, going all defensive, because they'll just get beat every week.
Charlie, do you think it's also a bit of a redemption for Frank Lampard? His managerial jobs haven't gone well so far. He didn't do bad at Derby. He didn't stop talking about Mason Mount for about 10 years after he was at Derby. The only word out of his mouth was Mason, this, Mason, that. But do you think it's a bit of redemption for him?
A little bit. I mean, to a certain point, he's always done well in the Championship. It's when, he got to the Premier League. I think the Chelsea job was a bit too soon for him. I understand why he got the job because, you know, of what he was done there as a player. But as a manager, it's a very different story. So I think that might have come a bit too soon for him. But it's a good chance for him to kind of have another crack at the Premier League. But again, it depends, you know, how much money are Coventry going to be able to spend, or you know, how they're going to use that money. Really, we've seen teams just barely kind of buy anyone and trying to stick to the squad that they had the previous season. We've seen teams try and spend big and failed. So, you know, they've got to attract the players, haven't they? That's the problem.
Well, I don't know. I think up front they're playing quite well. They've also. When I watched the Derby game the other day, they had a guy come off the bench. I can't remember his name. They had him with an R. He got a couple of goals. Looked pretty good. I don't think you always have to go all out. You know, I was looking at how many teams ain't in debt this morning in Europe, and I think there's about 3 teams. It's quite surprising when you look these things up. But no, I certainly want to go. I've got a really good friend called Ricky. And he's a massive Coventry fan, been a Coventry fan. He's about as old as me for over 50, 55 years. And he thinks they do all right. And I do as well. And they're one of those teams that have got a lot of history behind them, weren't they? Spent a lot of time in the higher echelons of the divisions, whatever you want to call it. They beat Tottenham in a cup final, didn't they? And which I was at, by the way, at Wembley. But I think they do okay. Luckily, I think Hearts are still holding on. It would be really nice for them, I think, to sort of get themselves over the line. I don't know how many games there is in the Scottish Premier League. How many games is it, Charles? Is it 36?
I don't know. I think they played each other about 4 times, didn't they? I think so. Is it not 38 or something? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but that'd be nice,
group, didn't they?
Yeah, but like Falkirk sitting in a European place, which it's so nice to see these different teams get through. Before we go on to Arsenal, maybe just my ignorance, maybe just not knowing about these things. I check all the leagues before we come on and different bits and pieces. And I looked at the Premier League this morning. And lo and behold, I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago and I said Man United need 10 points from their remaining 7 games to guarantee European football. You know, even if that will definitely guarantee him 4th place. So I looked at the Premier League this morning, and lo and behold, for Champions League places, there's 5 places. Now, the only time I think football fans in England stuck together as one was when the Super Six, as they call them, which was City, United, weren't it? Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, and Liverpool. They was going to go out and make their own European League, and I don't know who proposed it originally. They're trying to say it was some of the Spanish, some of the Italian. I think it probably was some of the Italian because there's so much money being generated in the Prem. And I told you last week, Premier League generates double the amount of money that the Italian League and the La Liga put together. But all of a sudden, is this creeping in the back door, the 6 going into a Champions League, what they was after from day one, Robbie?
Oh, I think the Champions League turning into the league format was a roundabout way of kind of not agreeing with them, but sort of doing what they wanted. Guarantee the money coming in. It's not really big 6 now, is it? We could call it the high 5, I guess, unless you swapped out Spurs for
It didn't take you long, did it?
Yeah, well, it's true though, isn't it? I do, but you could look at half of the Premier League could be in Europe next season. If Villa win the Europa League, which I think they will, Palace could win the Conference Trophy that we won last year. So they would guarantee being back in Europe. We could have 8, 9 teams in Europe. And my thing with that is what happens to the league? What's more important for people, the money game or the league? Because if you ask a fan, they're going to say the league. But the direct
Charlie, do you agree with Robbie? I think now we said about the Premier League needing to change its rules. Yeah, because if we get these American owners and next week I'll do the research. I'll bore everyone on money. I know it's not everyone's thing looking at money. You'll be amazed the money that American football generates with a 6 of the viewers that the Premier League makes. It's difficult for me because they don't stop moaning about. They're playing too many games. They're playing, 2 games a week, 9 every week. We've got to have breaks now. When we had Ramadan the other week, like players were stopping having a drink, during the World Cup. Robbie's called it so many times. We're going to have so many breaks for the eat breaks and everything. If they're moaning about too many games, why are they expanding these leagues, Charlie?
I mean, that's UEFA, isn't it? I think I agree with Robbie because when you get so many teams in Europe in that one league, it ends up devaluing the cup competitions even more, like the League Cup and the FA Cup, because then they just feel weakened sides. And we've seen it time and time again with the big six, as we like to call them, kind of putting out second string sides in these cup competitions because they'll have a European game the following week. This is just UEFA's way. It's very similar to Sweden in how they qualified for the World Cup in terms of it's UEFA's way of trying to get teams to take competition seriously. And it's, this UEFA coefficient where they're like, if you do well in the Champions League, if English teams do well in all three competitions, you'll get an extra team in the Champions League. You've got to remember this year we had 6 English teams in the Champions League.
But where does it stop, Charlie? Where does it stop?
It only stops. Well, it's UEFA, isn't it? So it only stops when the clubs kind of decide to take a stand against it. Now, I wasn't a favour of this Europe. I hated that Super League thing. I thought it was disgusting the way the clubs removed themselves from the Premier League and everything else. I would never agree with it. But this is basically UEFA's way of going. They changed the Champions League format. So they was like, right, more games, and now you can have more teams in it. It is a very watered down version of the Super League.
Exactly, yeah, but if the money's not coming in, we spoke about this last week with the money not generated in the. We had Louis on, who was really learned, I think, about the Italian league. If the money's not coming in there, what are they going to say in the end, UEFA? If they do start making a sort of Super League, what are they going to go? Right, the money gets shared out equally now. Even though the Premier League teams are bringing so much more revenue, and so much more spectators.
Look, UEFA can only do so much, and then in the end, it's up to these leagues to generate their own money. Say what you want, but the Premier League has grown so big and created this brand, haven't they? Mm. And all right, I think a lot of damage was done with the match fixing scandal with Serie A, but you look at La Liga. The money rights have really the TV money rights, how that works over there. Real Madrid and Barcelona have their own separate deals compared to other clubs. So the smaller clubs have got absolutely no chance of ever generating enough money because Madrid and Barcelona go and take it all. That's not a UEFA problem. That's a La Liga problem.
They're 1.25 billion in debt, Barcelona. 1.25 billion.
Well, they'll get out of it.
I think believe it or not, I think it's Man City, Leicester, and Bayern are the only teams in Europe, and Chelsea, tell a lie, that are not in debt. Even though Chelsea just produced the 350 million loss last year, there's no debt around it. Every other club in Europe, is in debt, and sadly, Leicester's going to go down. You touched on the FA Cup, Charlie. Before we move on to the main subject of today, when we spoke about the FA Cup predictions, we all did. We all said what we want. And then when we had Louis on last week, he spoke about West Ham. And I said to you, I don't think it'd be the greatest of games in the world, which I actually didn't. Football, it was a bit. West Ham scored 2 goals. West Ham didn't play for 80 minutes. And then they got 2 goals in. Where them 11 minutes come from, I don't know. There's plenty of Fergie time. Let's call it Nuno time. And I said to you all along, I think it'd go to penalties, didn't I? Before we picked it. West Ham, that lost on penalties. I've got to tell you, there's a guy I know, and he's in the know. He calls it he's got an ITK in the West Ham. So he does. He sends the team about 2 hours before it gets let out. And he's never wrong. So obviously this bloke he knows is an ITK. When I see the team, exactly like you've just said, by the way, this is not 1 ounce of disrespect on Leeds. Congratulations. And I really do hope that Leeds go on and do well in this competition. As I know Robbie's shaking his head, as I do Southampton, right? I looked what he'd done. They've not played Max Kilman now for around about 10 weeks. They've said he's not good enough. They want rid of him. No one come in for him in January. He is literally devoid of confidence, right? Told you before, he's scared to head a ball. Young Potts, lovely kid. His dad was a great player, Stevie Potts, a legend at West Ham, still there. But unfortunately, his boy, he's not good enough. And I don't know where they got this Megassa from, but he looks like he's put his boots on the wrong way when he goes on the pitch. As soon as I see it, I was literally, you know what I mean? He then, Bowen's best position on the right. He puts Strider on the right, puts, on the left. nothing against Leeds. I said, you congratulations. I've got loads of Leeds friends, and I hope you're going to win the whole thing. But you're right, what he did with the cup. He said that this one was injured and that was injured. I think we had 2 out on the concussion rule. But he said before the Wolves game that he had 7 back. So you're right. He sort of did throw it and didn't play his best team. And nor did Leeds. But Leeds, unfortunately, picked up 3 injuries in that game. And one of them, I think, is one of their better players. And I hope they don't get drawn into it. Did you see the game itself, Robbie, Charlie?
I didn't watch it. I saw the result. But he's going to look the manager. We've just spoken about money. Winning the FA Cup probably gets about, I don't know, £1 million, £2 million quid. Staying in the Premier League, you can't count how much that's worth. So that's what's happening with all these games.
That's what they reckon Coventry, Robbie. They reckon if Coventry come up, they always say the team that wins the playoff in the Championship will get more money than the Champions League winners, don't they?
Yeah, it's the biggest game in football, I think. Like money.
Yeah. I watched the just briefly because I know Robbie will not let me finish this show without talking about the relegation battle. I went out on Friday evening, and stayed out all day. And I met a Wolves fan when I was sitting outside this, but only a young lad, knew a lot about Wolves. And he said, "What do you think?" You don't know West Ham. They don't start. For me, they start too slow. They don't start quick enough. They've done it all season. Prone to mistakes, in the box. And he made the changes, and they played really well. Wolves really, really well. And I think in the first 20, 25 minutes, could have been 1-2-0 up, played well. West Ham just didn't settle. Second half was different. And there's a couple of channels, like YouTube channel, Know All channels, I call them, who've been calling for the 2 guys up front, Pablo and Tatty, as I call it, to be dropped. And anyway, like West Ham won it. The funniest part for me, there was a song going round when we signed Traore, and it says, "When you sit in Rosette and the ball, it's your red, that's Traore," right? He gets through 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, right? He gets through 1-on-1. And Julie went, because she said, "It's going to be another one." I went, "He's going to miss." I went, "Well," I said, "He's going to hit the corner flag." Watch, he got through 1-on-1 and he missed it. Nice. I mean, I have nothing against Traore, but you sort of know he was going to miss it. Anyway, West Ham won 4-0. It does do something that eases their goal difference that Charlie always goes on about, goal difference. Now, Spurs, they're playing Sunderland today, Charlie. Leeds are playing Man United tomorrow, and Villa are away to Nottingham Forest. Call them 3 results before we move on to the mighty Arsenal.
Oh my God. I mean, before I say it, yeah, I don't think it was West Ham winning. I think it was the fact that it was 4 goals that I think is just done really wonders for them. Tottenham, because of the way Sunderland have been all season, I'm going to go 1-1. I think they'll get a point, Spurs. I can't see them winning that game. Forest, again, it's a difficult one.
They're at home to Villa.
Villa are obviously still going for the Champions League. Didn't help them. Liverpool winning yesterday. But I'm going to go 2-1 Villa just because I feel like that Europa League to league, Thursday to Sunday, can sometimes affect teams' form. United Leeds, I'm just going to go United, like 2-1, something like that. I think Leeds will play well, but I think we'll just do it.
Robbie, them 3 games?
I think United beat Leeds quite comfortably. I just feel they're back at home. They've been playing well. They've got a bit of confidence. The crowd will be up for it as well. It's an important game for them to beat Leeds. I think the Forest game with Villa, I think that's a draw. I think they both played on Thursday. And both of them are probably thinking about trying to win that competition. Emery at Villa, I think he's won that 4 times already. So, if anything, obviously I want Sunderland to win, if you hadn't guessed. But I do think it'll be quite a tough game. A new manager again coming in. So it depends what he's managed to do with the players. But for the first time, they really are under big pressure because they've slipped into the bottom 3. And I think there's a mental thing that goes along with that with players. And it depends how much he's got into their heads with the psychology. But you've got to think that Sunderland is quite a difficult place to go. It's a long trip. Their fans are up for it. They're having a great season. They know they're going to stay up. So I reckon Sunderland sneak that. I'll go for
Now, Robbie, I'm going to come back to the long trip bit. I've had this with someone in the middle. Like, it's not like years ago where they go coach up the M1, the M6, like all around the place. They get stuck in all the traffic like we all do for hours on end. These guys fly everywhere now.
I know, but the fans.
There's no way this travelling around the UK. Don't forget, Tottenham didn't play in Europe. They weren't it, nor did Salah. I mean, it's crap, mate. And I'm not having it. I really ain't having it. The problem I see for Spurs, when I spoke to a friend of mine, Spooney, lives up in Lorette de Mar. Mad. He's probably the maddest Spurs fan I've known in my life. Like, you know. And when I spoke, I said, the problem you're going to have is that De Zerbi wants to play out from the back. And he likes playing out from the back. He lost his first 5 when he was manager of Brighton. And at the moment, if you look at the Spurs team, which I'm going to link this to their North London rivals in a minute, right? Romero, I don't know if you've noticed, and Van der Ben, they're getting booked more regular, both been sent off recently. They're not confident who they're. If you're going to play at the back and you're going to pass to someone, hypothetically, it's you out there, Robbie, on the right back. Mm-hmm. You've got to be confident that you're going to be able to handle that ball, pass it back, or stick it down the line, or maybe the back. They're not confident. Them two now, they're probably the only two, the Romero and Van Ben, that I would put in probably 3/4 of the teams in the Premier League. And I think if De Zerbi goes out and thinks he's going to install confidence in them Spurs players straight away by playing tippy-tappy football at the back, I tell you, I think it could be his undoing. And I think if they lose today, I think football is a confidence thing. But I've told you a million times, and I've had so many arguments with people about James Ward-Prowse at West Ham. He never hid. Other players, like what happened yesterday with Arsenal. Arsenal always had an outlet. Saka down the left. Always had an outlet. Someone was there from the pass back. They didn't yesterday. Players started hiding on that pitch. They didn't want the ball. They started playing nervy football. And, when you think of Spurs, they always had, like, I said to Charlie the other day about flair players again. Like, why are we not getting these flair players? You had your Glenn Hoddle, you had your Chris Waddle, you had Mick Hazard. I remember Mickey Hazard. He was never fit enough to play a full game. Do you remember? For whatever reason, we've got a bloke called Todibo at West Ham like that. I don't know what it is. It's got to be something physical. You had the players like Steve Perriman there that was a bit like Johnny Hollins at Chelsea, a bit like Roy Keane at Man United, a bit like Billy Bonds at West Ham. They held it together. They got, all these joke huddles that everyone's starting doing since Arsenal do it. You can say all that rubbish in the dressing room before you go out. Like, you need that link on the pitch. I remember when Man United needed to beat Juventus, and he knew he weren't even going to be in the final because he'd got booked. Single-handedly, really, King got them back when they beat them 3-2, beat Juventus and got United in the final for 99. And I just don't think Tottenham have got that in the team anymore. We all knew. We was told that there's problems upstairs. When Levy went, it caused a lot of problems. We knew what happened with Postecoglou. Everyone loved him there. When Frank come in, they didn't love him. When who's just got the sack? Igor Tudors, revolving doors, whatever you want to call him, he's gone. And I got to the funniest story of the lot. Right, I was watching a podcast just quickly. You know what I'm like with rabbiting on. Sean Dyche was on TalkSport, right? And I went, what do you think he's got to do, TalkSport? And he went, I'm glad they didn't offer me the job. He said, because I would have took it. I didn't want it on my CV that the team had gone down. Oh, mate, go do one. If they offered you 12 million for 5 years, like they've just given De Zerbi, you'd have run around there naked all the way from Burnley, wouldn't you? You know what I mean? And took the job. You wouldn't have had it. I said, you couldn't have cared less. I said, you probably got in there and got the sack after 2 minutes. I just think they've got to be careful. Now, talking about confidence in football, right, and building up, it seems strange that Arsenal have suddenly, the last 3 games, they've just lost that confidence. I remember sitting down in Alicante to watch the Carabao Cup final. And I think I told you there was a woman there and she was with this other guy. He weren't British. And at the end of it, he went, it's nothing. I couldn't care less. Like, Arsenal can lose it. It's just a rubbish. I went, not really, mate. I went, because at this time of year, everything's about confidence. You lose certain players with the injury. Certain players have got to go off to all their national leagues, international programs. I went, you want that wheel rolling, a bit like I said with West Ham. Play your best players. Get it there. Do something for the fans. We don't care. It come out of Arsenal afterwards. We don't really care. So then what does he do? He goes and drops 8 of the team to play against Southampton in the FA Cup, we're good enough to beat this. All the Arsenal podcasts, the AFTV. Nah, it's going to be a walkover. What happens? They lose. Now that rolling stone is gathering the moss as it's going down the hill. Suddenly, yesterday's game was quite important. And they look lost, mate. I've got to tell you, I watched that game and they didn't look the Arsenal of before Christmas. They didn't look that confident team. Robbie said it. They ruined Robbie's bet. That team you put in every week that it's going to be there. I'm telling you now, City have got 2 games in hand, I think, haven't they? And if they beat Arsenal, they end up on the same points after the 2 games. But Arsenal's got a better goal difference by about 5 or 6. Things are getting nervy. Are they bottling it, Robbie, or is it just a confidence thing, you think?
Well, I think a lot will depend on how we play against City today. Because if we get turned over, which is very probable with our keeper and defence, they'll be on the march. Now, City winning that cup boosted them. We know that. The first thing Mourinho did at Chelsea was take that competition seriously. Won the league. Right? Also, City in the last probably, 10 years or so, April and May, they turn into a train. So if they win today, and I want Chelsea to win. Let's be clear on that first. But if they win today, they'll be putting a lot of pressure on Arsenal. And Arsenal, it is a mental thing, and they could well slip up. You would have expected them to beat Bournemouth at home.
I've got to be honest, Robbie. I watched the Southampton game, and Southampton played really, really well. And personally, I think they deserved it in the FA Cup. Mm-hmm. And yesterday, maybe a draw would have been the funny part about it. I can't think of the guy's name. Yeah, one of them Jack Grealish headbands on them Alice bands, and he took it away. And he was a Tottenham fan all his life. He's been a Tottenham fan. Charlie, look, we could go. We are going to go back in a minute. Robbie's done some research on this of teams that have sort of, Newcastle one year we thought they was going to walk the league, didn't they? They brought in Asprey. It seemed to cause a lot of tension in the team. Robbie, before I go on, just quickly, hold on. Yeah. Do you know we did the Chelsea one last week?
Yeah.
I've had a few phone calls from people. A lot of people don't put comments on, but people will message me afterwards. And apparently there's a lot of unrest in the dressing room, and there's quite a few of the players that want him gone, the senior. That's just come from someone that said to me, there's a lot of unrest at the moment. Apparently he's lifted the ban on Fernandez and he'll be playing today. Charlie, what do you think? Is it a mental thing? I mean, Man United lost it a couple of times to West Ham, end of the season.
Yeah, look, the pressure does go on. I mean, I think we was 8 points clear against Man City once and then blew it within 3 games. And we ended up losing the league on goal difference that year, funny enough. But that was the Aguero kind of season. They didn't really play well against Lisbon, even though they won. I think they kind of, they got out of that one. I think that probably should have been a draw. I think Shearer pointed out, it was on a match of the day, he went, Bournemouth wanted it more. It weren't about being tired or anything. He went, Bournemouth wanted it more. And they did. And Arsenal didn't play like a team that wanted to win the league, that was desperate to win it. They do look like they're struggling. And the thing is, if Man City win today, they've then got Arsenal next week. Man City got a week off because they're not in the Champions League. Arsenal have still got to play Sporting. And then that Sunday, if Man City beat them, they're 3 points behind with a game in hand. And it closes the goal difference ever so slightly as well because they'd have beat them. You just start to look at it and go, are they starting to cave here? Because they do look like something is slightly wrong. But I just can't put them in. They're very slow. They're so slow. Like in that second half, like 38 back passes to David Raya. Like, why? Like, you go and win the game.
Do you know what made me laugh, Charlie? I was watching one of the on ESPN. You got the 2 Scottish lads there, Burley and Steve Nicol. And it was only a couple of weeks ago, they were saying that they were the best pairing, best defensive pairing possibly in Europe, in Saliba and White. And suddenly, they're looking average. Excuse me a minute, I need to go and kill the dog. And I honestly think, deep down, the further it goes, if they lose one more, one more game, and then I think the cracks are starting to show. Robbie, you've done some research from us of major bottlers throughout the Premier
One
League.
of them, Charlie just said that one 2011. That was when Aguero scored. United were 8 points ahead with 6 games to go. And remember, that was a Ferguson team as well. That was, but it happens, doesn't it, in football? I've got a few. I've got about 5, but from the back end, I've got United in 97, 98, because they were 12 points ahead of Arsenal. And I remember it because one of the betting companies paid out on them winning the title. And then they lost. They lost to
Robbie.
One of them. I don't know what one, or Betfred, whatever it was. But they paid out on them because they were 12 points ahead, and they lost to Sheffield Wednesday. West Ham got a point, and then I think Arsenal beat them. And it was Wenger's first season, I think, and he done it. So I've got that one in there, and the other United one. Arsenal have got a few, funnily enough, and I'm not digging them out. It's just when I've looked through 2002 and 3, 2007 and 8 that they blew it. But the big one was 2022. So they were at the top of the table. I don't know if you guys know how long. They led for 248 days. And then they collapsed in the April. It's April again now, isn't it? So that must have been, that was painful for them. And I've got...
Robbie, listen, Robbie, hold on a minute. Before you go on these, look, what has changed then? For you, what has changed for Arsenal, right? Going into that Carabao Cup final, I probably edged it with Arsenal. I thought it weren't a lot in it. They was okay the first 10, 20 minutes. I thought they was fine. Surely this drop in certain players, and players that did it in the FA Cup and playing the keeper in the Kepa, weren't it? He played in the League Cup.
Yeah.
Surely this has got to be down to Arteta. It's got to be, Robbie.
I think it is. It's his tactics. He's the one sending the team out. I also think you need to adapt a little bit. And maybe other teams are adapting in the fact that if you can block them taking a corner, for example, you end a big part of their game. I think that's important. And it is. It's his tactics. He's picking the players that have been at the top for so long. It's his. I don't know. I would put that down to the manager, and you'd be they must be disappointed, or they will be if they don't win it.
The thing is, they've done this thing a lot of the season where they've gone 1-0 up, and then they've sat back.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't gone for it, and most of the season it's worked for them. But it's now coming to a point where they're not going 1-0 ahead. They're going 1-0 down, and then they're struggling to get back into the game. And then even when they do go ahead, again, they'll go ahead and then they'll just drop back again. And they're just inviting teams onto them. And teams are starting to really, I think, be a bit more confident against them and going, right, we're just going to press these. And they do look like they're struggling in the press, Arsenal. And when you rely on set pieces, when those goals dry up, you've got nothing left almost. And I think this is their problem at the moment. But they all raved about Kai Havertz coming. I don't get the Kai Havertz type. I never really have. I don't think he's a great player at all. Gyökeres has kind of started, but even their wide players, Saka, his form's gone. Odegaard's form's gone. Madueke and Martinelli. I mean, the fans want Martinelli out of the club. But no one, again, we talk about, and look, I get Declan Rice is a good player and everything else. But again, I'm still waiting for Declan Rice to grab the team by the scruff of the neck and drag them over the line. And I think that's the one thing that is missing from his game. Vieira and Keane did it, and, or Lampard would do it with a late goal. Gerrard would do it for Liverpool so often where they'd right, this team's playing bad, I'm taking over. And I would love to see him do it. I think he's got it in his locker. But they do all seem to just be starting to feel sorry for themselves a bit. And that is when it goes wrong.
Who were the worst bottlers then, Robbie? Who was the worst? Was it?
Well, I've got 2 at the top. The famous Slippy G one, again, when this doesn't slip. And then he went over and Demba Ba scored a cracking goal. I do remember that. And I've got some United friends that like to remember that every year with Demba Ba Day. The biggest one, obviously, and probably the most famous, if there is someone younger out there, was the Newcastle one. And they were 12 points clear. And I think Ferguson baited Keegan by saying teams play harder against us. And Keegan went on a rant. And they lost, I think they lost a game, probably the game of the Premier League. They lost to Liverpool, I think 4-3. I don't know if it was home or away. And it was their undoing. They lost a 12-point lead, which is incredible when you think about it. That's 4 games you've got to lose, and the other team's got to win and make up all the goal difference.
So this is why
the biggest.
The League Cup was so important. Winning
I
that
agree,
League Cup
Charlie.
would have given that confidence and momentum. And again, all the Arsenal fans were saying it before the cup. They was like, we'll win this and this will kick us on to win the other trophies. And then as soon as they lost it, like every other fan, it's only the League Cup, it don't matter. No, it will be the catalyst that goes that's what will move you on to the other things. And I think since they've lost that, they look even worse. I know we've had an international break in between and things like that. But, let's not forget, 10 of their players was injured on international duty and withdrew and came back to Arsenal. They still went and lost to Southampton. They've gone and beat Sporting Lisbon, which I do think was a good result, even though they didn't play well. But now they've lost to Bournemouth. And now they've got to play Sporting again and then next Sunday go away to Man City, who, after beating Arsenal, went and battered Liverpool in the FA Cup. And if they go and beat Chelsea today, Arsenal will be firmly in their firing line.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I remember the great Newcastle team because suddenly it's quite funny. Like when there's a team doing really well, a lot of kids start wearing that black and white, or red Man United or whatever. What kids are like. They like. Although Charlie's little one wanted a South Korea World Cup shirt yesterday, so that takes that out there. But I just remember that it was all the Newcastle songs was coming out, and it used to be the Cantona songs that would blare around town. I know that I go in town very often these days, and there were so many more jerseys. But I do remember they brought in Tino Asprilla, and at the time I think it was Les Ferdinand and Alan Shearer was scoring goals for fun, wasn't they? And he wanted to make the team better. I think he was a Colombian international, wasn't he, Charles?
Yeah.
And it broke the partnership up, and whatever it did to the team, and that I'd love it if we beat them up. And I mean, Keegan give up the England job, sitting on the toilet at Wembley, would not come out the toilets. He went, just say I've resigned. I don't want the job no more. I don't want to face the press. So I do think Fergie got in his head. I don't think that people were getting in Arteta's head. But we said a couple of weeks ago about the look on Guardiola. He's got that look of a man that's just slowly, there's cracks. I think you got to look at that at Arteta. I think the same thing's starting to happen with him. And it's really strange because we all said a couple of weeks ago that we thought Arsenal would get over the league. I mean, Charlie said, limp over the league. I thought Arsenal would win it by about 6 points. I just couldn't see him losing it. Now, Charlie, you had George on here for us a couple of months ago, and he was cock-a-hoot that Arsenal was going to win all 4. What's he saying now?
I'm scared to message him. I was going to message him after the Bournemouth, but I thought I best not. I mean, I know he was in the pub last week for the Southampton game. When Southampton were 1-0 up, he walked out. So I thought, I'll best leave him alone. I don't think he's going to be confident now. He probably thinks they're just going to blow it. I will have to catch up with him. But, I mean, even again, Arsenal fans online now, they're starting to they're like, this is it. It's the same old. If we bottle this one, Arteta's got to be sacked. The thing is, with City, you still kind of don't. You still look at them and think there's not that invincibility about them. You've got to remember they've not won their last 2 league games. But I think the result today will be massive. You don't know. You never know what you're going to get from Chelsea, do you? Really? But because of how much has gone on with them, and again, they're fifth now guarantees you a Champions League spot. So again. They don't need 4th now, Chelsea. They can deal with 5th. And surely those players or Rosenior, they're going to start trying to prove a point, surely. And be like, look, it ain't as bad as what everyone's saying, and we just want to do well and everything like that. I think today's game is going to be massive, absolutely massive.
I think, Charlie, if there's a split in that dressing room, if there is a split, and we know that James is the captain, and Fernandez is the vice captain. If there is, we know we had it with West Ham when we had Alvarez, Kudus, Tobido, and one other. Like 4 of them actually nearly had stand-up fisty altercations, shall we say, with Julian Lopetegui, and it split the dressing room. It proper split because the captain has to try and be peacemaker. Then he's got to really come down on the side of the manager. I think today's game will show whether Chelsea are up for it.
Well, you've got to remember, Chelsea got Man United next week as well.
Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted to say.
Chelsea get beat by both City and United in 2 weeks. I think definitely the cracks there will won't be like the Grand Canyon.
Arsenal in the league, Robbie.
Do they? I'm hoping they. Well, I'm not hoping. It would be quite funny in a way as a fan if they don't. I still think they'll get there. I do. I still. Charlie said their City are not invincible. Today's game is huge. I want Chelsea to win. Whether that helps Arsenal or not is irrelevant. I want Chelsea to win. What I'm worried about today against them is City will obviously be fired up. We've got a goalkeeper there. If he decides to give that big blonde ape a Christmas present or something, we'll get slaughtered. Whereas we could give them a game. And I want the players to prove it, that they're good enough. You want to play in the Champions League, prove it. City and then United next week. It's 2 massive games. You're right, it will determine the rest of the season.
I agree. Charlie, do you think Arsenal win the league?
The thing is, I can still see City. I mean, I think City will win 2-1 today. I mean, and even if they do then go and beat Arsenal next week, I think their game in hand is Burnley at home. That's City's game in hand. So if they do then win these 2, they'll probably go in at 4 or 5 past Burnley, and then that will close the goal difference. But again, I can still see City dropping points. They don't look like that team who just can't lose. But then again, I'm now looking at Arsenal and thinking, like every point this year, you think, they've played badly, they'll go and get a late goal, Arsenal, and they have. They've gone and won it. They've gone and got that late goal. I can still see them slightly edging it, but I don't think they're going to walk away with it now, because I think they're going to make such hard work of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny, really, when you look at it. For the outsider looking in, we want the end of the season. You want the relegation games to go to the last game of the season. You want the Premier League to go to the last game of the season. And I suppose deep down, that's what you want. I'm like you. I think somehow or other Arsenal crawl over the line. There's 2 points I want to bring up. A lot of people used to moan about Mario Balotelli. And when you brought up that Aguero goal, I think it was QPR they was playing, weren't they? Man City. Before he got that goal, they were they led 2-0, I think. They're now 2-1.
They was losing 2-1, weren't they?
And he was going to get sent off, Joey Barton. And I can't remember who the QPR captain was. Set to Barton, chin someone, get one. So you're going to get sent off. So chin someone on the way up, and get him sent up. So he boshed Balotelli. And for all the stick he got, it would have been a lot easier for Balotelli to have retaliated that day, and he didn't. You know what I mean? And it stopped him getting sent off, and Aguero sent again. You mentioned Haaland, right? And he's like Marmite for me, right? I look at world-class centre forwards. I really do think. I think maybe it was just me, but I think so many people underestimated Harry Kane. So many people underestimated what a good footballer he was when he was with Son. How he made Son look a good footballer. I thought Daniel Levy pulled their pants down at Bayern when he got 100 million for him. How wrong was I? Like Charlie said, they broke all goal scoring records this year. Is Haaland right? I mean, I suppose if you're a striker, you just got to score. Do you actually rate him as a footballer, Charlie? That's what I'm saying to you. Or is he just
as an all-round footballer? As an all-round footballer, I don't think he's the greatest. I think a lot of parts of his game he still needs to work on. I do think he's improved in terms of his hold-up play and bringing other players into play. I do still think it can be better, though. But again, he's one of those where he can have 10 touches in the match, score twice, and it don't matter. That's all that matters, isn't it, really? He's a nightmare with his pace and his finishing. Yeah, and surely he's got to fancy himself today against that goalkeeper.
And the defense.
Go for it, Robbie. Do you rate him, Robbie?
I do. You see, I do. As a striker, I think he does it all. He's scoring goals, head, feet. He's big, he's strong, he's annoying and a nuisance. But if he was playing for your team, you'd be happy with that. But you said there, Charlie, a couple of touches and a goal. That's all he's got to do. If you win a game 1-0 and you've played terribly and he scores in the last minute, you're going to take that. We're talking about Arsenal limping over the line. That's the striker that's going to win your trophies. And his goal record is incredible. And I know the team's set for him and all of that, and he takes penalties. He's still got to score them all. So I would have him in my team any day, even though he's annoying.
Yeah, I've got to say, Robbie, when you look round in world football, you know, we're going to start looking at the World Cup at the end of the season, and you think yourself, right, like, who would I like a West Ham as a striker? And you just, they're not like before, you know. We talked about the big number 9s. You went back about, I mean, the lad last week spoke about Kerry Dixon, didn't he, Lee? And you talk about Mickey Droy. I don't even think your centre-backs, you know, you got that big old commanding Jack Charlton style centre-back. I mean, we spoke to a Leeds guy the other week, and he said he'd had one of his favourite players ever to have in any team was Norman Hunter, you know, and I'm going back like, you know, 70s and 60s. Now he was the cause of England missing the 1970 World Cup. He slipped over again. He done what's his name? A Gerrard against
Slippy G
against Poland. Yeah, when they had a guy called Jan Tomaszewski. Brian Clough called him a clown, and you know, goalkeepers try to make saves look a lot better than they really are. Like, you know, he could have pushed it, but he doing these big dives. But that's for another story. Yeah, I think it's strange. You are right. Football is changing, gentlemen. From a time we wasn't going to, excuse me, we wasn't going to be able to get a show out today. I've got caught in the rain. I should have got me wet clothes off, shouldn't I? Guys, absolute pleasure. Thank everybody for watching us. Please subscribe if you will. Please come on the show. Please write in the comments. Don't keep messaging me off there. Write in the comments. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers, Jeff.